Now's a great time if you have any questions that you want to ask of Sarah. She's here and happy to answer them.
Yeah, I see a question over there.
If this book were to be turned into a movie, who would you want to play you?
Okay, so she asked if the book was turned into a movie, who would play me? And I just want to say that when we did our launch party, and my mom was there too, and we both answered this question, her first answer was Lucille Ball. I was like, can you pick someone alive? And she goes, no. So my answer, for better or worse, would probably be either Jennifer Lawrence or Emma Stone. Yeah, I think that they could carry the humor. It's me.
Hey, yeah, I was wondering, how did you find which book you wanted to write? Like, there's like that old like Michelangelo quote about seeing the statue in the stone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was that process like for you? Because it's like you've worn a lot of hats and done a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So like, where's that? Like, what was the process of like finding that through line for like the book or for like workshops and other offerings and stuff?
No, that's a fantastic question. And I think that working with the editor and having that process where they had so much yet to throw out, not to throw it away because it could still be a featured book or something, or some staff or something. But for me, there was, in terms of the statue and the stone, it was just a book. It was like a bucket list item, right? It was like saying, I know I have a book in me. Like, you got the dog in you, right? Like, I have a book in me. Sorry, my house is stabbing me. I got excited. So what I find endearing is that my very lovely and supportive fiance was like, isn't writing books for like successful people? And he meant that in terms of like the Steve Jobs types and the people who literally have like a path to success, or Franklin Covey being like, here's, how to achieve business acumen. And if I don't have that level of success the way that society would see it, who am I to write a book? But that's why it was great that it was a book about my experiences, because I see myself much more as a storyteller than somebody who's instructing you and saying, this is what you have to do, or follow these footsteps. I actually say a lot of my stories like, please do not follow my footsteps. These are, wayward tales of don't be like me. I feel like going into high schools and doing like scared straight presentations, like, you think this is cool? It's not cool. I kind of feel like that's gonna go over well. But when it came to the process, what was difficult was going back to all of those stories and seeing what did maybe connect them. And what was bizarre about it is how many times death was the answer to that question. Whether it was a death of someone in my family that impacted how our family talked or didn't talk about big, heavy things. And then, I have 4 instances that I shouldn't have walked away from. So the fact that I legally, I guess, technically by Merriam-Webster, I can't call them near-death experiences because I did not flatline and then come back like my mother did. She's like, hold my beer, I got this. But it was realizing that death could be the through line, not only it being the through line, but also it being something that is still so taboo. And it's something that a lot of people, they get kind of ooky about, or, oh, this big bad thing happened to you, I'm just gonna not know how to approach that and stay with an arm's distance. And so I felt like by being the person who's wearing like Care Bear socks and carrying around an elephant, I'm gonna talk to you about death, guys, it makes it approachable. And I felt like that was a good introduction to this, even though I'm sure more publications are probably to come. Thank you.
Okay, this one's wild. You said that you're in therapy, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite thing about your therapist?
Oh, besides our purple hair, the fact that the cats know when we're on camera, and I get cat drive-bys all the time. It's also my favorite thing about being a remote HR lady, is that I'm on these very serious job interviews where these people are obviously trying their best to put their best face forward and be very serious, and they're like, I am so sorry, I don't know what she's doing. I'm like, it's a kitty! So I definitely love that. But I think the other thing that I appreciate about my therapist is that we've grown together, because there was definitely a time where I needed her more frequently, and we were probably meeting twice a week or weekly, and now we've gotten to the point where we're on regular monthly meetings, and now I just told her, I'm like, I think we're ready for every other month, and she's like, yay! So I just feel like there's such an evolution. I'm not saying that I'm going to coach her and be like, I don't need therapy anymore. It's just like, there will always be things to need her for, but I don't feel like I'm in such a severe, urgent place in my life that I need her at such a moment's notice. Yeah, thank you. Big fan of talk therapy. Miss Farrell.
somebody who's in therapy, is there a particular type of therapy you found more beneficial, like finding a therapist who actually specializes in trauma or EMDR?
I think that is an incredible focus to have. So when you are looking for a therapist, even if it's just, I want a female therapist because I'm female, whatever is going to make you feel more comfortable and you more ready to open up to them, I think is really great. But I've definitely noticed some limitations with my therapist before where, maybe it's because she doesn't prescribe medication, maybe it's because she doesn't focus on something that she will give me resources to go find that in other places. I don't know that would make me switch to a different therapist where it's like, well, just because she doesn't focus on EMDR, that I need to go find someone who does. But she gives me resources and maybe I look at it on my own and kind of report back to her. But I definitely would say if you're just starting out and don't already have that person in your life, then it might be worth doing that research to know what you need. And sometimes you don't know what you need going in, and so you just kind of need
Was there a point in your healing, obviously, that there was, where you started the book? Do you have can you pin it down to where you thought, I'm ready for this?
Yes. Well, let's see. In the chronology and the timeline, what I actually defined as my rock bottom was the years between 2017 and 2019. So those were the two where the patterns kept coming back so heavy, with such force that I couldn't ignore it. And I had somehow managed to leave that situation, which I'm sure you can relate to, because I literally had people who cared about me around me going, you have to get out of the situation. And my response was, I know, but I don't know how. So I was not oblivious to the fact that I was in something. I was just in really deep, and it was complicated. And he had kids, and I thought that I could be this good influence, and I didn't want to hurt my family, and I'd already done so much work. It was complicated. So I finally left that relationship, and then became all of the extra chaperone, right? Getting all that gunk out, healing from that relationship for those 3 years. And then around that same time, I met my now fiance. And what was difficult about it was I didn't want it to be a rebound from such a bad relationship. I wanted to have some space where I got to know myself. And unfortunately, I did get to know myself. He just got kind of a front row seat to it, which was not pretty. And there were moments where I still wanted to revert into my trauma responses from the past, primarily going small dark spaces. I would go hide in closets and bathrooms and have the lights off. That was where I felt safe from my childhood. And so he would find me in the pantry, and he'd be like, you're okay. He would bring me out of the darkness, literally. And there were times where we would get into a fight and I would run away, and he would call me, and I was up the road, and he's like, this doesn't do any good if you're not here. And it was the first time that maybe I had an emotionally intelligent man in my life. And I was like, wow, he apologizes, and he's like, we need to be here to talk through these things. I was so proud. And where there were just so many of those moments where he held me crying and he said, you're safe. And then it made me cry 800 times more. And I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how much I needed to hear someone in my life tell me that I was safe, and realize that. And then I had a financial advisor tell me that I was financially safe. And I'm like, okay, book it in. Let's get this out before they take all my money away. And they're like, JK, you didn't have that. So I feel like it was a perfect storm of knowing that my heart was ready, and then knowing that I could actually market this and make it successful.
If you ran into a survivor who's today, what advice would you have?
My default advice that I like to give anybody who's in a spot that's really tough is not meant to sound minimizing, because it's a very simple answer. But the reason why I say it is how much I probably needed it when I was in that moment of the fiery anger all around, and that's to breathe. Because I feel like there is just so much that ends up right here. All of the emotion, you can just feel it. When you're really stuck and in the thick of it, it's right here, or even up to here, or you're drowning. You cannot, there's that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees, but it's almost like you don't even know that there's trees around you because you're underwater. There's quicksand, that's a breathing quicksand. So I feel like to be in that place, first of all, to acknowledge that somebody is going through something, I feel like very brave, because a lot of us don't actually speak it. We do that whole, I'm not going to show you this version of myself, and I think that's easy to do, is to just ignore and not disclose. but if somebody were to share it with me, I would just sit with them, help them, tell them to breathe, give them some exercises, and then just remind them that support is out there. And for me in my story, one of the moments, again, like what was the moment that made me change and do the book and all this stuff, one of the most impactful moments was realizing that I had to advocate for myself, and there was no one who was going to like come down and be like, oh, my child, let me like shepherd you to the healed land. Like it wasn't going to work like that. I had to stand up and go, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I don't want to be here anymore, and I don't have to be here anymore. And that, when I say that you have to do it for yourself, that doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. And so you have to, it's kind of like alcoholism, right? Like you can't get someone else sober for you, and when you do it, you have to, your first step is admitting you have a problem. And you have to acknowledge it, and then you take steps, but you're again not taking steps alone, you have a group. So that was one of my biggest reasons for reaching back out to the Keynote Center and saying thank you so much for still being here and still helping so many people, because it doesn't matter if it helps tomorrow or 13 years from now, you're planting the seed that grows.
And follow up.
Yeah, please.
What would you want survivors to walk away with from the book?
Okay, besides the great better not bitter tagline, hashtag, I really feel like the whole point of the book is to have less shame around these things. Because I feel like even to this day, when I think back to some of the experiences that I had, or the things that I did, or the things that happened to me, there is just such a film of shame around it that I even still have to work through. Because again, healing is not linear, and I'm not standing before you and be like, I have no mental health problems now anymore. It's really to say, you chip away at it, and you get better, and maybe it means that when you get triggered and it's fresh, it's a big response, and then you've worked on some things, and then you have a smaller response. But I really feel like shame is just such a killer of inspiration, and when you want to be an artist, and then you feel shame, or you feel guilt, or you feel less than because of things that happened to you, that's what I want to try and take away. Because I feel like when the art tells your story, it's like 10,000 times more powerful.
I have a good Gucci one. Please. Okay, if you were a type of sandwich, what type of sandwich?
Oh my gosh, I'm only gagged at this because when I was a professor, I knew that students had test anxiety. So on my midterms, I would include the question, if you were a kitchen appliance, what would you be? And it really made me realize that nobody knows what the word appliance means. Because people would be like, I'm a spoon, I'm a knife, lots of knives. And then they would have like the creepiest descriptions of them. They'd be like, I'm a spoon, so go in your mouth. And then they didn't know I was going to put it on the slideshow. And it was anonymous, but tell by the red on their faces whose answer it was. Lots of refrigerators, lots of blenders, lots of ovens. So I love that. It's very nostalgic. And I'm obviously stalling because I think I want to be a Cuban, but I don't want to be culturally disrespectful. So I just mean that I've got like meat and cheese and I'm pressed really hot, but you know, in a respectful way. Otherwise, it's like a turkey tom. That's my no